You train hard, you show up consistently, and you push yourself hard in every workout. And yet, you're not growing. Your body looks the same. Your strength may improve, but the body doesn't change. So you think, I need more intensity, I need more frequency, I need more weights, I need to push harder. But what if I told you that the problem is not your training, that the problem is actually your recovery? And if you don't fix that, you can train as hard as you want, you will stay exactly where you are. For the ones new to my channel, I'm Dr. Nash Jocic, former bodybuilding champion. I've been in bodybuilding for over 40 years. I competed 46 times and won 17 titles. I have also personally coached over 3,500 clients and helped them to get in the best shape of their lives. During that time, I have also published 12 ebooks for you, which are fully loaded with detailed information about everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you finally want to start building muscles and burning body fat, simply click on the link in the comments and you can download my ebooks. Most people think that muscle growth actually happens in the gym during your workouts while you're training hard. But actually it doesn't. Training is the stimulus and growth happens after. And this is one of the biggest misunderstandings in bodybuilding. People judge their workouts by how hard it felt, how exhausted they are, and how much they suffered. But none of this actually guarantees growth. Growth only happens if your body recovers and then adapts. So without recovery, your body will never adapt to the new stimulus. So simply, growth is not possible. If recovery is compromised, there is no adaptation. And without adaptation, there is no growth. So the real question is not, did you train hard enough? The real question is, can your body recover from what you did? And you have to understand and remember this, because it's not how hard you push, but can you really recover after that high intensity workout? So this is the question for you. Another big mistake in bodybuilding is that every muscle should be trained twice per week. It sounds logical, it sounds scientific. There are even some researchers that have proven this, that training muscle twice per week is the best way for muscle growth. But what you have to remember is that these new researches, papers published recently, are not conducted on irrelevant groups. They are conducted on completely irrelevant groups, which is nothing to do with bodybuilders, with you and me. They are conducted mainly on people who are beginners, have no experience in training, and you can put them on any type of training, they will change. But the conclusion is not final and is obviously not something that is universal, that can apply to everybody. In practice, for most people, training twice per week destroys their recovery. And why is that? Because muscle doesn't recover in isolation. You need to remember that whenever you perform an exercise, you're not just training that muscle, you're also training the whole units which is involved in that particular exercise. You're training your connective tissues, you're stressing your joints, tendons, ligaments. You're also stressing your central nervous system. So exercise and effort that you're putting in every single exercise is not simply related to muscles only. It's related to the whole unit, the whole mechanism that actually participated in that particular exercise. It is important to understand that tissues like tendons, ligaments, joints, nervous system, they recover much slower than muscle. So what happens? If you train chest on Monday and then you should train them on Thursday, somebody advised you to train them twice per week, your muscle may feel okay, but your connective tissue is not fully recovered. And over time, inflammation builds up, performance drops, and joints start hurting, and eventually growth stops. Just because muscle feels ready, that doesn't mean that your body is ready. I can tell you that from my own experience. I've trained in the past twice per week, every muscle twice per week. I had to take steroids in order to recover. But even with steroids, I could not recover. I felt terrible. I was having injuries, not bad injuries, but My elbows were hurting, my shoulders were hurting, and most of the time we thought in the days that this is normal. But this is actually not normal. It's simply overtraining. And I believe now that if I've trained every muscle once per week, as I'm doing now, and as I'm advising people to do the same in the last 30 years of my coaching, I would have ended up being bigger, harder, probably winning more titles, and most likely competing even more. But I didn't. So if I knew what I know now, things would be very different. And this doesn't really apply only to me, but many other people. Now, people may argue and say, oh, but, golden era people, they used to train twice per week, every muscle group, and how did they manage? Yes, they did, and they did manage, but you have to take into consideration the whole picture. As I often say, if the book has 300 pages, you have to read them all from A to Z. You can't just end up reading the first few pages and then thinking that you have learned the whole content of the book. So while people in 70s didn't know better, they lived bodybuilding 24/7. They didn't do anything else. They trained twice a day. They slept 10 hours a night. They had a nap in the midday, 2 hours on the beach or wherever. And they managed to do that. Obviously, those individuals that I often mention, people like Serge Nubre, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Frank Zane, Sergio Oliva, these were also unique human specimen. These people are not for comparison. And on top of everything, they were taking anabolic steroids, which obviously help recovery. Now, what has happened? As bodybuilding evolved, as science got deeper into bodybuilding and we understood more, in 90s, bodybuilders started training less frequently. So they started training every muscle once per week. And remember that because a lot of you come back to me and start arguing on this subject because simply a lot of you don't watch my videos fully. In 90s, people started training every muscle once per week. And this is why this was the biggest change. And I absolutely agree with that. Most of them continue to train high volume. Some of them, very few, train with lower volume. But lower volume is not one set per exercise. Dorian Yates didn't do one set per exercise. Dorian Yates did 4 to 5 sets per exercise. I've seen him myself training. There was no single training session in which Dorian Yates did 4 sets in 4 exercises only. Every session would be anywhere from 12 to 16 for smaller muscle groups and 16 to 20 for larger muscle groups. Although most of the other bodybuilders train with even higher volume. They train 20 to 30 sets, most of them. So the volume remained, but frequency changed. And this is something positive. This is what 90s have brought into the world of bodybuilding. Now we understand, we know why is that the case and why you should train muscle once per week. The reason for that is obviously to recover the whole system, all these units which are involved in particular workouts. So 7 days in average, this is a point of reference. For most people, the best time to train single muscle. So some people may get away with 5-6 days. Some people may need 8 days or 9 days. This is obviously individual. But for most people, training muscle once per week is your best choice for the reasons explained. Now let's talk about the way that most people train today. So most people today train too heavy. There is a pattern now, a fashion to do very heavy weights, screaming in the gyms, trying to show whatever, I don't know, to prove something to themselves and to the rest of the people that they're really training hard because they're training too heavy. And often, most people train to failure consistently. I see that every day. Simply because they think that more is better, that more weight is better, and that more failure in every set is actually better. But what they're actually doing, they are accumulating fatigue, not stimulus, without even knowing it. I see bodybuilders around myself, competitive bodybuilders, semi-professionals, that I've seen and I know them for years, some of them for decades. They reach the certain level, and then for years they are absolutely the same. They compete with the same weight, the same shape, the same size, year after year. In last 10 years, nothing changes. And the reason for that is they continue to go with their head through the wall, thinking that if they lift heavier weights and if they go to failure in every set, things will change. And they are unfortunately wrong. They are simply wasting their years, their lives, their ambitions, dreams, money, because the strategy of their training is completely wrong. And I will explain to you why is that. There are two types of volume. Effective volume that stimulates growth, and also junk volume. Junk volume creates fatigue without benefit. Now, most lifters are doing too much junk volume. Now, junk volume is not necessarily doing too many sets with low intensity. Junk volume is more often than not doing sets to failure with weights which are too heavy. Why is that? The reason for that is that those reps in such sets are simply not effective, not in good form. They are short. There is never full range of motion, full extension and full contraction of the muscle. There is no time under tension. Just observe somebody who is lifting too heavy and going all out, going to failure. Watch how they do this. Leg press, 10 plates each side. Those reps are quarter of the reps. There is no full range of motion there. There is no full eccentric repetition. There is no time under tension. They usually end up on momentum bouncing those quarter or third reps, never full rep. And these reps are junk volume. Now, when you do many sets like that, that junk volume does very bad things to you. So what it does, first of all, puts more stress on your joints. So the risk of injury goes through the roof. It multiplies so many times. Also, more connective tissues, immense stress on your ligaments and tendons. Not to mention CNS, central nervous system fatigue. This type of training, this junk volume, literally is destroying their bodies without even knowing it. And what they don't do, they don't have controlled reps, they don't have time under tension, they don't have full range of motion, and they don't have enough volume that will stimulate growth through perfect reps. And this is the recipe for growth. There is nothing else there. And obviously enough reps and sets in every particular exercise, which I explain in my bodybuilding blueprint course, which I had to do because so many people were asking me all the time about what is the best way of doing bench press, how to do pull downs, how wide your arms your grip should be, how to do barbell curls, how to do squats. Squats are good for you, squats are bad for you. What about leg press? How deep should I go? So instead of answering every single question that I get in the hundreds and thousands every day, I have created for you a complete bodybuilding blueprint course in which I personally demonstrate and explain the most effective exercises for every single muscle group. So if you're interested, if you finally want to learn what is the best form of execution of every single exercise that I see as most effective for every single muscle group, you're more than welcome to download my bodybuilding blueprint course. Link is in the comments. There is also something very important, and this is something that most people completely disregard or misunderstand. Muscle recovers very quickly, but connective tissue don't. Your tendons, your ligaments, and also your joint structures, they take much longer to recover. And if you overload them, they become limiting factor. And this leads to chronic pain, reduced performance, and compensation patterns, and eventually stagnation or injury. Everybody who has injured themselves because of these problems with connective tissues caused with overtraining in sense of too heavy weights, going to failure in every set, and also stressing the connective tissues and central nervous system beyond recognition for absolutely no reason. People who got injured, people who torn their biceps, quads, shoulders, chest, they all did this. So if you want to go that way, then follow all these people who are advocating one set to failure, heavy duty, and going to failure in every set all the time. You know who I'm talking about, you know how they ended up, and everybody who follows that principle is going to end up there because there is simply one-way road, cul-de-sac. If you're going with a head through the wall, you're going to end up with broken head. So that's it. Now let me tell you something important about nutrition, which is directly related to the topic. Most people think that if they eat more carbs, more energy, and that means automatically more growth. But that's the problem. If you consistently eat food which is high in carbohydrates, you will simply reduce your insulin sensitivity. Now, why is that insulin sensitivity so important? Because if your insulin sensitivity is low, nutrients are not directed efficiently. So the partitioning of your nutrients will be wrong. Also, with a low insulin sensitivity, you increase your fat storage. Because when you are insulin insensitive or resistant, your body will produce more insulin. And more insulin in your body means that most of your nutrients, including even protein, will go into fat storage. So muscle uptake decreases. So muscle uptake of amino acids decreases. When your insulin receptors are not sensitive, when you are insulin insensitive, you will absorb less amino acids and glucose within the muscle cell. Thinking that more carbohydrates are going to make you stronger, bigger, fuller is absolutely wrong. More carbohydrates are going to make you retain more water because of high insulin presence, and high insulin presence forces kidneys to retain more sodium, hence water retention. Also, more carbohydrates will make you fat and you will gain weight, but that weight is not the weight that you want. You want lean weight. You want weight which is created purely by muscle tissue, not fat. So high carbohydrate intake not only slows down your insulin, reduces insulin sensitivity, but also make your body retain more water and increase body fat, while reducing ability of your muscle cells to absorb optimal amount of amino acids and glucose. On top of that, people don't eat enough protein and they don't structure their meals properly. So now you have high carbs, low protein efficiency, and poor nutrient partitioning. And also, I said so many times, it's not true that you are what you eat. You are what you absorb and how your body responds to it. So it's not just the amount of food that you shovel into yourself. It's how much of that you will absorb really and how your body will respond to it. And once again, remember this, is very important. The most important effect of the food on your body is not caloric intake, is the hormonal response. And this is where the crux of the problem is. There are also other recovery killers, factors that basically kill your recovery, and we have to understand them, and I have to mention that to you. Number one is poor sleep. Obviously, if you don't sleep enough, your central nervous system will never recover properly, and you will never produce optimal amount of growth hormone, which we produce during the sleep. The second one is chronic stress. Chronic stress increases cortisol in your body, and cortisol is catabolic hormone. It simply eats your muscle tissue. Another one is not having enough rest days between the same muscle groups. So I explained that and explained why training every muscle once per week is absolutely essential. The last one is constant high intensity. All of these factors, they simply increase cortisol. Once again, most catabolic hormone in your body. Not only catabolic, not only bad for your muscle growth, but also highly inflammatory hormone. So you don't want that hormone to be chronically elevated in your body. Yes, you need cortisol. Cortisol is not alien, but when chronically elevated, it's very bad for you. And you cannot out-train poor recovery. There is no, even steroids cannot help you there. So remember, recovery is absolutely necessary for muscle growth. So what is the solution? What should you do? First of all, you need to train every muscle once per week and allow the full recovery, not just of a muscle, but also connective tissues and your nervous system. Number two, is you need to control intensity. I advise not to go every set to failure. Yes, sometimes you can go to failure, but make sure that this is only one set per exercise or even one set per muscle group. My advice is to stay in most of the sets 1 to 2 reps shy of failure. Number 3 is focus on quality of volume. You need controlled reps, proper tension, and avoiding junk sets. Junk reps, which I explained, are usually the reps that you do when you use weights which are too heavy and you go to failure in every set. This will lead to poor form and obviously all mentioned risks which are associated with junk sets and junk reps. You need to protect your connective tissues, meaning good form, controlled tempo, and absolutely avoiding ego lifting. When it comes to nutrition, you need to improve your approach to nutrition. You need to eat high protein, low carbs, and that way maintain that insulin sensitivity, which is absolutely essential for your overall metabolic health, also muscle growth and fat loss. Number 6 is you need to prioritize recovery through good sleep. You need 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. You need to have enough rest days between training each muscle group, and also you have to manage your stress. So remember that recovery is not opposite of training. Recovery doesn't mean anti-training. Recovery is actually part of your training, is the part of healthy, wholesome approach to training and bodybuilding. So if you're not recovering, don't immediately ask, what more can I do? What more should I do? Ask, what is making my body not recover properly? Because once you fix recovery, everything changes. You start improving, your physiques improve, your strength improves, and your benefits become consistent. So you don't want to be in that under-recovered state. And remember, you're not stuck because you're not training hard enough. You're stuck because your body cannot recover from how you train. Let me remind you once again that I have published for you 12 ebooks which are fully loaded with everything that you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you want to deepen your knowledge and expand your horizons, simply click on that link in the comments and you can download my ebooks. So guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, share the video, and also send me your comments, and I will see you in the next video.